Hey everyone, hope everyone is safe and sound. Quick one about me. I am Akash. I have been around in the industry for 10 plus years and currently I work at MIQ Digital as a senior principal engineer where I lead the platform engineering teams as an architect. And today I'll be talking about a very interesting event called CLEANATHON. We have been running this event for the past 3 years and then this has helped us run a very clean and efficient infrastructure. Before I go any further, huge thanks to the entire organizing team to make sure PlatformCon happens. It takes a lot to pull this off. Let's take a quick look at our agenda. We'll talk about who we are at MIQ, what do we do, quick look at the problem statement, and recap into the Cleanathon event. Last year in Platform Con, we had presented how you could bring your cost per GP, and there are various solutions to it. Cleanathon was one such solution, and then this year we wanted to do a deep dive into Cleanathon event. That's where we'll discuss about event format, how do we curate an inventory, the key outcomes, and then the savings that we have been able to achieve. Well, we are MIQ, a leading programmatic media partner. We have been around in the industry for 10 plus years. We work with various marketers and agencies to serve their campaigns. We make sure that their campaigns run effectively using our advanced data and AI capabilities. So far, we have served more than 100 billion transactions. We have more than 10,000 advertisers and campaigns running within our platforms. As a company, we have around 1100 plus employees and we are distributed across 9 countries and 22 regions. You might be wondering what is programmatic media advertising? Well, any website publisher, someone who has created that website, gets to place ads. A website might have, let's say, 8 to 10 ads slots within their website. Now, anytime someone visits that website, we see an ad. This is something that all of you would have seen, right? But the scale it happens is a website is being visited millions of times in a day. And this is where to be able to effectively show an ad, a real time auction is required. Now, the way this entire flow works is whenever you open a website, details of who you are, the website that you are visiting, the intent that you have is being sent to a server, real time auction server called bidder servers. And this is where MIQ comes into play. And then using our advanced ML AI capabilities, we know who to target so that we can help our marketers target the right campaign using the right audiences. This entire process takes less than 100 milliseconds, and then this is where the complexity starts coming in. On a daily basis, there are 40 billion ad impressions that are being served. That means 40 billion transactions that are happening. This generates huge amount of data, right? 20 terabyte of data every day, and this is where MIQ pitches in and then helps marketers and advertisers solve that complexity. Well, let's talk about the problem at hand, right? At any company, whenever you are using cloud, the waste builds up pretty fast. Couple of examples for that. Assume that you are running a POC, right? For that POC, you brought up a database, an S3 bucket, and then after the POC has concluded, you forgot to delete that POC resources. Another example would be, let's say you are doing an upgrade. During that upgrade, you needed another copy of an instance, and then you have created a couple of backups, volumes. You wanted to keep those backups and volumes for around, let's say, a year, but then you forget to clean that up, and then these resources start piling up, and this is what we call unused resources. Another example of cloud waste, it will be misconfigurations. A very simple example would be an S3 bucket with versioning enabled without any life cycle to clean those versions. That means every time you are writing new objects, you are building up waste, right? This cloud waste builds up pretty fast, right? While there are many tools around to tell us what cloud waste look like, automation becomes a really challenging task, right? If you wanted to clean it all up, you require a lot of manual effort. Reason being, you are going to delete, let's say, backup, but how are you really sure that backup is no longer required? Now, this is where you need collaboration with different teams, right? The team that is owning the backup, do you really need this backup or not? And then this entire process is time consuming, and then the entire cloud is scattered. This makes cleanup really slow. And lastly is no guardrails, right? Without any automation, the waste keeps coming back. Even if you have taken a step and cleaned all the waste that has been generated in, let's say, previous year, next year you will have waste generated again. This is where we need governance in place. so that we can have automation. A simple example would be every time we do a POC, we associate a expiry date with those resources so that an automated email can go to the user that your resources are coming to an expiry. They'll be deleted in, let's say, next a week or a month, right? These are the guardrails and automations that we want to make sure are in place. What we want to eventually in a state is we can accelerate the remediation, we can automate as much governance, as much guardrails as possible. And it's not just about the savings, right? While you can save up your cloud infrastructure, it's not just about reducing your cloud bill. This saving or the less amount in the cloud bill can then be reinvested somewhere else. Well, last year we talked about Cleanathon. Now, this is a 24 hours event which focuses on making sure our cloud infrastructure is safe and secure. Well, not 24 hours sitting idle. Uh, the 24 hours is kind of divided into first, let's say, getting an inventory created, sharing with the developers so that they can analyze that inventory, and then 8 hour hackathon event to clean up or act on that inventory. Right? Now, I've been talking more about inventory, right? What does an inventory really mean? Well, inventory is the set of resources that we want to target on the day of the cleanathon. Now, these could be your volumes and snapshots that have piled up so far. It could be, let's say, your right sizing recommendations as well, your optimizations as well, data deletion, anything, right? Now, while inventory cleanup is important, we also want to make sure that we are bringing in automated governance. Now, these are some of the governance methods that we had targeted. For you, it might be something different, right? For example, tagging policy and automation to make sure that all POC resources are tagged with an end date, right? Creating things like service catalogs so that complex infrastructure could be brought up in a click of a button, as well as you can bring them down at a click of a button. Now, let's talk about the event format, right? What we do is we do a 8 hour hackathon kind of event, right? So that one day we all come under one single roof, and then we make sure that we act on the cleanup of the resources, right? This requires a lot of cross team collaboration, right? Majority of our time, if you might remember, that we talked about goes into to and fro, right? You might reach out to a development team asking whether you really need this backup or not, right? Now, with cross team collaboration, what we do is we bring up everyone from DevOps to engineers to your security team, even under a single roof on the same day, so that we will all work together to clean up on the infrastructure as well as build as much automation as possible, right? It's not just about cleaning up the infrastructure, right? And not just about bringing in governance. We normally run this into dual tracks. One track is always a cleanup, right? Cleanup as in deleting the resources, right sizing, right? These are the set of things that we know beforehand. And then comes the long shots. Long shots are essentially things that you can't do in 8 hours, right? Things that we talked about, let's say bringing in governance of a tagging policy. This is something that you can't do in 8 hours, but you could do a POC in 8 hours and then further invest on it to build, right? Those are long shots. Long shots could also be things like, let's say you figured out your bigger databases could actually move to serverless, but that is something that you can't do within those 8 hours. So you invest on your long shots. And lastly, an important one is wrap up and recognition, right? Our team has been working on really hard on this, and this is where you could be creative. For example, we have brought up things like, let's say, most innovative saving, right? Someone who has done a saving which was very, very complex in nature wasn't even probably part of our inventory sheet, right? And then things like, let's say, most number of resources cleaned, most number of saving achieved. Inventory curation is the biggest part of this entire event, right? This is where you have to invest most of your effort on. Now, there are automated tools available out there that you could use. You can also reach out to your cloud provider. In our case, AWS helps us a lot in terms of giving us the entire set of inventory that is generated from their proprietary tool, which tells us these are the set of resources that are not in use within our infrastructure. What do we do in the inventory curation? First of all, discover, right? Using cloud native tools, there are many open source tools and scripts that you can run within your infrastructure, and then based on the resource utilization or looking at your CloudWatch metrics, or if you are on any other cloud provider, looking at those metrics to figure out whether a resource is actually being used or not, and then detecting some sort of misconfiguration, right? Now, the critical steps comes after discovery phase, right? Discovery might give you an inventory which is, let's say, 1,000 items long, right? Now, the next step that you want to do is validate. Validate with the teams. whether this is an actual finding or not, right? So that you can clean up as much as possible, and this inventory has to be a solid one that can be acted directly on the day of the event, right? And then we prioritize, right? We order in terms of not just the cost saving but also on the effort and the risk involved, right? Based on your cost, impact, risk, and effort, you prioritize your inventory on what do you want to target, right? We created a Google Sheet inventory. It could be based on a tool for you, whatever works. Now, how do you execute this inventory on the day of the event, right? For us, this goes under the five key pillars, right? Once you have the inventory, the first thing that you want to do is clean up, right? If something is not being used, you are very confident this will never be used, delete it immediately, right? The next one that comes is optimize and right size, right? Optimization largely goes into the code bases where, let's say, you're running a query which is taking a lot of time. You could, let's say, break up that query, run things in parallel so that you are utilizing your resources in an efficient manner. Right sizing essentially comes into play where, let's say, you have over provisioned your resources or under provision. Could be anything, right? It's not just about saving the money, right? That's where you right size your resources. After right sizing is comes reservations, right? Different cloud providers have commitment based reservations. For AWS, it could be your reserved instances or a savings plan. Reservation always comes after right sizing because you want to make sure the instances that you have reserved, you are actually using it, right? Because if you haven't right sized and reserved, then you might tomorrow again create a waste. And lastly, the most important one is called bringing in the governance so that the cleanup that we are doing today, we don't have to do tomorrow. Now, a quick important one is don't break to save, right? We want to make sure that our production system works as efficiently as possible. We have to be extra careful that just because to save a few dollars, we don't end up breaking production and then impacting the business. Now, consult and consult in most cases, for us, let's say, these are the junior engineers and in some cases senior engineers working on the cleanup of the resources, right? This is where we ask them to always consult with your delivery manager, your technical lead. Always go to DevOps team and then make sure that the moment you have finalized that this particular inventory has to be cleaned up, right sized, whatever, that has been double checked by everyone, right? And then record every action. Things can go wrong, things always go wrong, right? Make sure that whenever your inventory deletion is happening, right, at that time you are recording what was the action that was taken, right? If you are deleting a database, make sure that backup is being taken so that in case that system was used anywhere else, you can always bring it back up, right? And then agility is the key here, folks, right? We are doing a Cleanathon event in 8 hours. That's where we now need to move very, very fast, right? And that's where a lot of preparation goes into your inventory creation. As good as your inventory is, the better your entire event will go on. Right? What are the outcomes and impacts, right? We have talked a lot. Now, the first one is identified and action insights, right? This year, we have done cleanup of more than 100 plus unused resources, right? And then five plus long shots implemented things like, let's say, kudos dashboard, lifecycle policy cleanup, one serverless migration. We have able to do all of that within just 8 hours, right? And then the numbers might differ for everyone, right? For us, on the day of the Cleanathon event itself, we have been able to cut down on our cloud cost by 3.5%. That's massive amount. And this is where I'll go back to what I was saying around. It is not just about saving money, right? Saving the cloud cost. It is about reinvesting that money back to some of the POCs or experimental solutions that we always wanted to explore, right? For us, the money that we have saved with the automation, what we are being able to do is reinvest it back into explorations like EKS auto mode or some of the or more complex observability initiatives. Now, what we have been able to achieve with Cleanthon as an event is that while our revenue has been going up, our cost per GP has been consistently going down, right? Now, you could utilize the same sort of format, right? It could be different for different organizations. For example, in MIQ, our DevOps and developers have a different type of working model. For your organization, it could be a bit different. But an event like this can always help. Now, that's all from my side. Thank you, everyone.